we're gonna put in these GMG springs. We're not gonna do it, the dealer's gonna do it, I'm not gonna lie to you. Can't do it myself, but these are going in tomorrow. I'm pretty excited. I've really debated about whether or not to do this. It could be a big mistake. These are the GMG lowering springs for the 991. And this is the front spring, and then this is the rear spring here. Much, much bigger. And where do these go, you ask? They go in here. Take a look in there. There are the stock springs back there. And these new GMG springs are more compressed, and they're gonna lower the car about 1 1/4 inches. So right now this is the stock ride height, and you have this gap here. It's about a 2-inch gap, maybe a little more. And so what's gonna happen is it's gonna drop the body of the car about down to here. My tape measure. Damn kids. Right now, the stock ride height is about 27 7/8 inches, so a little under 28. So I don't know, depending on how this goes, I could drop it down here to 26.5, 26 5/8, right around there, which will be a pretty substantial difference. I'll zoom out here in a second and give you a view of the stock ride height from a distance. So right now you've got that even wheel gapping, which I kind of like, but I think the lowered wheels will look good too. We'll see, I don't know. So here is the rear wheel, and that one, like the front, it's just right under 28. So this is the rear wheel with a stock gap. I don't think I've ever scraped anything on the front of my car, and that could change when I lower it. That's my biggest concern here. And then these hang down pretty low. I mean, I've definitely scratched these in the past, and we're gonna lose, what is that? We're gonna lose like 1 1/4 inches there. So this could be a bad idea. I don't have the front axle lift system. That's a concern. And then of course, if you're in Sport Plus mode or you've put the spoiler down, you're gonna be mighty close to the ground. Front spoiler's down, that actually doesn't come down as far as I thought it did. In fact, this part right here looks like it still comes down even lower. Once we lower the car, we're gonna lose that 1.25 inches here. So it'll be pretty low, but I think it won't be unmanageable. And in fact, I have driven around with this deployed by accident, and I've never scraped anything that I remember. So I think even with that reduced clearance, we'll be in good shape as long as I remember to put the spoiler up. Look at that gap. That is just, say goodbye. Say goodbye to that gap. We don't need that in our life, no. Got a good relationship with the guys at my dealer. I think they're gonna let me come in, film part of this. At the very least, they'll take some pictures for me. I'll put them in here so we can see what the process is like. This is something I wanted to do myself, but I just don't have the stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I have the skill. I don't know how that would go. One last look at the stock stance. Stock ride height. Say goodbye. Okay, springs loaded, ready to go. Let's go get these put in. This is my iPhone camera, by the way, in case it looks different. The lowering has been completed. So these are the old springs that were taken out of the car. The new GMG springs are now installed. This is the lowered front. This is the back. This is the modified stance. And I'm actually really surprised at what a difference 1 inch makes. Let's grab the ruler. So here is the front wheel, and you can see that hits right under 27 inches. And then this is the rear wheel, and that one hits right over 27. So if one side of my car is higher than the other, I definitely prefer the back to be higher, because as we all know, things going downhill go faster. That's a joke, but I think the car looks really good. By the way, this C is something my kids put on me yesterday, in case anyone's wondering. The gapping on the wheel is not even anymore. It is a much, much smaller gap up here. This is a look a lot of people prefer. I definitely prefer it. I think it looks a little more aggressive. At this point, I have extended the spoiler down, and you know, there's not a ton of clearance. In fact, this part, you might remember this part from earlier in the video. This part is the lowest portion of the front of the car. So with the GMG springs in, you've got a little less than 4 inches of clearance. Yeah, give or take. Thus far, it hasn't been an issue on any of the approaches I've gone over, and hopefully it won't be an issue in the future. But yeah, so far so good. Personally, I feel like it's the right look for this car, at least for my car. Other people may disagree, but I like how the car looks lowered. Some people think you really have to have aftermarket wheels to do this. Eventually, I do want to get a set of HRE 21s. I think that would look pretty good. But for the time being, I think the stock wheels look just fine. I don't have an issue with the offset. You know, you could definitely push the wheel out a little more in the front, a few millimeters there, and in the back as well, but I don't think there's anything weird looking about the stock center locks with the lowering springs. So when you lower your car like this, you need to have an alignment done, and the guys at the dealership said they were a little worried about the camber, the caster, the toe, and stuff like that, but when they did the alignment, everything came in within spec, so all green, all good to go. So if you have a similar car and you use the GMG springs, doing the alignment shouldn't be an issue. So I know other companies make lowering springs. I don't have any experience with those, but I can definitely tell you the GMG springs are excellent. I didn't notice any difference in ride quality. So I would say that the GMG springs, your ride quality is not sacrificed. So I have a follow-up on the lowered car situation. I took it to a place where there's a fairly steep dip as I'm coming out of a parking lot, and there's not a lot of traffic here, so I was able to pull the car out into this dip and kind of see how close the front of the car came to the street, and it's really close. One thing that's actually really nice is the car's sensor system will alert you right before you scrape. So you can see here I'm literally maybe a quarter inch off the ground, and that I had to back up and I had to go out at sort of a different angle. So with the lowered car, even with the spoiler up, you still come super close to the ground when you're going out of approaches. Now, most of the approaches I drive out aren't this steep. I made it out, but I think driving this might be a challenge. So just a heads up to people who lower their car, you might be in for a rough road. No pun intended. Next week, we'll probably post the videos from these two Recon installs. So that's about the end. My car sits an inch lower. I like it. Recommend it if you're thinking about lowering your car. That's going to do it for this time. So